Hola, hola a todos. Well, thank you so much for coming back to listen to the Amiga Mia talk show. This time around, we have a special guest from La Comunidad Mexicana, which, if anyone's been following my journey, my stories, my reels, my life lately on social media, talking about it with Cindy, who's actually the guest. Before starting the show, that I've just opened Pandora's box and I'm in love. And I'm very much guilty to say that growing up, whilst I had probably much of a deeper understanding than maybe the non-Latinos about the Mexican community and culture, now I'm just uncovering more and I fell in love. But anyways, introducing our special guest for today. So her name is Cindy Flores, as I said, member of the Mexican Australian community. The way I met Cindy was we did a networking event in your taqueria.
Networking event.
Yeah, was that with Diego and Karen? That's right. And that's when I used to work across the street. I don't know if you know that.
No, I did not.
Yeah. I used to work. So Cindy has a taqueria or owns part of a taqueria in Sydney, in Chippendale. I used to work across the street from that in G Squared, the big G Squared place.
Yeah.
And I used to see that place all the time. I'm like, damn, that looks fun. I want to check it out.
Well, I'm glad you made it.
Yeah, so that's when we first met. And then later on, I knew of you. And then we went to the gala night for the Navy Mexican ship a couple of weeks ago. And that's really where I got to know you at a personal level. And I really wanted to share your story.
Very nice.
So, yeah, well, as I know you, Cindy Flores, a Mexican Australian chef, also now entrepreneur, small business owner, and also, if I may, call you a TV celebrity chef. Excuse
Got my
me.
5 minutes of fame.
Yeah, I'm seeing you popping up everywhere. Channel 7 recipes, Channel 9 recipes, on Sunrise. This is awesome.
I've been working behind the scenes for a while, but yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago when I had that 5 minute TV appearance, which is great. Any forum that I can take to spread the word about Mexicans in Australia and Mexican community, I'll take it.
Yeah, I love that. You can tell that you have a deep passion for it. It's very evident. That's my brief overview of you are, but you got way, way, way more depth to you. And then I learned a bit of that on the Navy ship the other day. But yeah, well, tell us a little bit about your early journey.
Um, and I am a Mexican. I'm a chef. I've been in Australia for around, I think, 13, 14 years now. Deeply committed to share what is great about my country in here at the best of my possibilities as well. Focus obviously in Mexican food. I moved here with an initial project to Mexicanize the oldest survival Mexican restaurant, open for about 60 years now, if I'm not wrong, which was a great, great experience arriving to Wollongong, little town, getting to know the perception of Australians of Mexican food. It was a
Mm.
great journey. And then, yeah, after that, I just continued growing and dabbling into the whole Mexican food scene. My passion kept growing with the curiosity of the Australian market, and that sort of drove me to just continue to pursue my dream of to just reach more and more people with what I do, and share one of the things I love the most about my country with Australia.
Whereabouts in Mexico were you born and grew up in?
I am from the flagship. I am from Guadalajara, and I say the flagship, and like without offending anyone else's from any other Mexico's cities, but um, from Guadalajara or from Jalisco is like most of the things that you know about Mexico that
Mm.
are identified with happiness and party and like the colorful, the dancing, the music, mariachi, and the tequila. So I am fortunate to be from there.
Mhm.
I grew in those picturesque movie like scenes when you see all the colorful flags from a little town close to Guadalajara. And then when I became 18, I moved into the biggest city.
What I was saying earlier, I think it was before we went live, was like, actually at the beginning I was like, oh, growing up, I always saw the Mexican culture majority of the time as like that, like every other Australian does, but it's with a positive lens, right? Is with the tequila, la fiesta, mariachi, like it's always a lively, colorful, vibrant cultura, and I was always drawn to it. And that's awesome that you were born from that part, because that was what always appealed to me about it, and that's why I created this meme. That was like growing up, people used to hear me speak Spanish to my parents when they would drop me off or pick me up, or when they would come over to my house, and they would be like, oh, that's so cool that you're Mexican.
You're Mexican by default. Like if
By
you speak
default.
Spanish, you live in Australia, you're Mexican by default.
And it's funny, right? Because it's like Mexicans are the smallest percentage, well, one of the smallest percentages of the Latin Americans here. But I never took offense to it because I was like, fuck yeah, I am. Like
Yeah. Of all the things they could call me, Mexican is a good thing.
I'm happy with that. Yeah, like anytime, any day. And then did you end up learn going to culinary school in Mexico?
I always loved food. Like I'm one of the kids that was raised with condo instead of Play-Doh. Like I was making tortillas with my aunties and cooking with my grandma all the time. I never thought of it as a career.
Mm,
It was just like an everyday for me. Once I start growing up, I love food. As you can see, I love eating. And I wanted to do some sort of like artsy thing. That was my jam. Like I want to become a movie director or something like that. So
mm,
I wanted to join to get into cinematography school. Did all my arts, got into school. It was super hard, and when it was there, someone made a comment about everyone that finished this career, like the high percentage of the people that finish this bachelor, they just stop because there's no enough jobs
mm,
within the film industry. I was like, wait a minute, like I love food way too much to be an aesthetic that is going to be starving.
mm,
So I feel like I need to switch my priorities and maybe just have the whole visual, artsy, movies, etc. as a hobby, and the cooking part that I always loved, make it my career. And a few of my family, like when I mentioned it, it was like, of course, like it makes sense. And yeah, I jump into it. Yeah, not looking back. I study there, and I remember doing my first internship when I was 6 months in school. We used to go 3 months away to work in a kitchen to see if this was really what we wanted.
mm.
And I went to the Port of Veracruz, which is in the other side of Mexico, like right along the Gulf of Mexico. And I was working in an opening of one of the most classic hotels in Mexico, like it's all about Mexican culture, these hotels.
Yeah.
And I got there and I used to do far out 10-hour days, 11-hour days. I'm out so exhausted, but feeling so happy.
Mm.
And that's when I realized, like I actually like I love this.
It's like
I love
it's
this.
your destiny.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
making food, reaching people, doing things for others, making people happy, seeing people smile, appreciate, love Mexican food in general. Like I absolutely love this.
Mm,
But continue studying and continue eating my way around Mexico, I also was very conscious that every single grandma could cook better Mexican than any kid coming out of school. So if I wanted to make a difference, I probably needed to go outside to do
mm,
it. Like learn as much as I could from the inside, but then whatever used to make me happy there, go and share it around, go
mm.
somewhere else and do it the same way my family sort of share food around the table all the time, and like how they used to make me happy with that.
And were you the only one in your family who, like in your family or circles who decided to leave the country?
Yes.
Wow.
The only one, the youngest one, the only girl in my household. It was like a bit of a breaking the pattern ideas. Like my older brothers, one is a doctor, one is a lawyer. Like it was only, I don't know, the whole Latino way, like
Mm,
she's the youngest one, she's a girl, she's going to get married, she's going to probably stay and take care of the parents. Like I know from the side of my dad's family, that was probably the expectation.
mm,
I never really had it in me to stay still in one spot and just do what I've been told to do.
mm.
And somehow, a few years down the track, my mom says that if I see the map, you choose the farthest from Mexico to just go and really do your thing. I was like, wasn't intentional, but yeah.
Oh, I was going to ask you, like, what? Because obviously, we can see like there's a high percentage in the United States. So, what kind of drew your attention to Australia?
Funny enough, I like the thing, and I like it sounds very corny, probably a little bit silly, but I like to romanticize the idea that I did not really choose Australia. Australia chose me to come
Oh,
here.
I love.
Australia wasn't in my in my map.
Mhm,
I always like love the country somehow. Now that I think about it, there was things and elements around my life that used to make me drawn to Australia. I was opening Mexican restaurants over there in Mexico, and yeah, through connections, a tequila maker that knows some people here in Australia. It says like, I know this chef. She's doing these things in Mexico. I think you two should talk,
Mhm.
and you probably like need to take her with you to, I don't know, for a couple months just to bring Mexico to your restaurant. So we spoke. We really got along. We got what they wanted. They like me. It's like, okay, I'm going to Australia for a few months.
So you came with the mission to like introduce authentic Mexican. Like that was always your kind of mission, but now you actually went there with more purpose. And was it like a company that sent you?
It was not like it was these people sort of starting the visa process. I was very naive about what it takes, from a
Mm.
Latino to come to a country like Australia. Like I realized how lucky I was of the circumstances that got me here. The restaurant did everything. The restaurant brought me here. I was a sponsor. I didn't
Mm.
know what sponsor was. In my head, I was just coming here for I think it was a year or so, just to Mexicanize the place and make it closer to the real deal, like bring these ingredients, these recipes, these ways to cook, and at the same time teach the service, the smiles, the music, the experience of being in a Mexican restaurant in Mexico. So I moved to Wollongong, and I started there. I learned so much from the Australian market, being in I used to think about it like a microcosmos. I understood after that it was a great way to embrace Australia because I arrived to see different aspects of the culture, living the beach life at the same time running a Mexican restaurant, understanding the appreciation. And like you said, like there's this something about Mexican culture that Australians feel drawn to.
Oh yeah, thousand
Like
percent.
talk about Corona being one of the biggest seller beers in the country, like it's that from where you'd rather be motto. People wants to go there even if it's for a meal or for a drink or for just a little moment in time that it's going to put a pause in their every day and yeah, just get there. So I
I
love
have
that.
I have a question for you because, like, I would love your opinion on this probably more than anyone else I know at the moment. But, like, so growing up, there was always this Mexican restaurants, tacos, there was this whole concept of Taco Tuesday and everything. When you arrived to Australia, and for those who don't know, Wollongong is actually south of Sydney. It's sort of like a coastal town, which is now actually getting pretty big, but south of Sydney, if you're listening outside of New South Wales. So you got here to Australia, like, what was it like when you found all these places that had like Mexican food, but it wasn't authentic Mexican? Like, what was that? What was that like? What was your?
I think I like to see these things with a different lens. I know so many chefs and so many Mexicans that get so offended that, oh my God, they are doing Mexican food and that's not even close to Mexican food. I enjoy it and I celebrate it. Like, I absolutely love the fact that if they don't know, they try hard,
Hmm.
regardless, to bring Mexico to Australia. Like, I used to love pictures with these liquid cheese and olives, like that interpretation of people thinking that black beans and melted cheddar was actually liquid cheese and olives, not a thing. Yet they were still very successful. Like
Hmm.
jugs of sangria everywhere, margaritas, Taco Tuesday, the hard, the soft, the corn, the flour, like making taco night at home. Like I think that
Hmm.
for me, that was one of the things that it sort of clicked when I realized that taco night was a thing for
Hmm.
Australian families. I knew I had something to do here.
Oh yeah.
Like I knew there was a crave not just for Mexican food, but for Mexican culture.
Oh
And
yeah.
again, if I could make my way to try to change little bits and pieces of the appreciation of Mexican food, I'll take it. Don't take me wrong. I did try in the first restaurant to have like the white kids. I'm going to show you how to make tortillas, and now we're going to make tamales, and you're going to shake your apron so all the bad vibes go away, so your tamales get puffy. Like your tortillas needs to be done this way. Like I used to do the whole cultural bit behind in the Mexican food, like trying to bring the purest Mexican experience. I realized obviously down the track that as interested as they would just went with the flow. I also realized that of those 18 chefs that I was working with,
Hmm.
there was a couple that really took on board all those little things
Hmm.
and loved learning these things about Mexican food. So I don't see it as a bad thing. If anything, I see it as a great opportunity. I saw it as a great opportunity and as a great canvas for us Mexicans to just continue painting with our colors.
What a perspective. I love that. I love that. Positive, like, opportunist, but in the best kind of way, because you are so well positioned, right? It's sort of like I always was wondering about how eventually the Mexican community would start to, well, they already do, but like reclaiming the Mexican food culture. Because I don't know about other parts of the culture. Maybe you know more than me being adopted here, but certainly food is one that's massive. To your point, like I grew up always, even in school, even in institutions, they would talk about Taco Tuesday. They would talk about like the Mexican food was even brought into the classroom. We would enjoy it in the classroom. It was taught to us in that way as like a celebratory moment with our peers and with our friends. And that's really how I got introduced to it through the schooling system. And then obviously as I would come back to my family, they would explain to me more depth to the Mexican food culture, which I loved and appreciated. But yeah, like, so you had no bad experiences at all? There was not one place you were like, oh, that's a bit like...
I wouldn't say like, was it confronting? Like 100% was confronting to just come and see like, so it's just melted cheese and sour cream and then suddenly it's Mexican now. but but at the same time it wasn't. Like obviously I used to go to the supermarket and I got so excited that I used to like, oh my god, they have a Mexican section, and then I got there, I was like, they ain't no Mexican. Like, oh, the El Paso. I was like, the El Paso is in Texas, and it all this is definitely not my kind of but again, it was a journey, appreciating and appreciating. At the end of the day, I just felt like it was a way of welcome, seeing how well perceived was like any Mexican thing that you put in front of people. Don't take me wrong, there's still people to this day that you try to do something a little bit more purist, like, can I have a side of sour cream? Can I have some guacamole on the side? Can I have some lettuce in my taco? Can I have like, because it's what they know. Like, I don't take offense in they trying to change what I'm trying to present to them, because at the end of the day, it is what they know. And again, if you go to Mexico and you try to have Japanese food, good luck finding a purist.
Yeah.
Good luck finding the real deal. Like, we tend to Mexicanize absolutely everything. We have no right of getting offended of someone else just trying to have a go at what we eat and the way we eat food, which I guess is to the core of things. Australians celebrate the way we celebrate. Like you said just before, they bring the tacos and they teach you in institutions that it's sharing, it's with the people you love, or it's with your family, with your friends. It's just a matter of getting together and sharing a meal. And that's exactly what Mexican food is about.
I always saw it with positive symbolism. Always, always, always. So you're in Wollongong, and what happened after that? I love the stories, actually, kind of rewinding it back when we were on the Navy ship and we were talking, and you were talking about how, like, to the detail you were about showing, like, the ways of cooking. It was so funny. Like, you, like, even to the, like, this detail, Michelle, like, I would show them how to cook the beans properly.
It's like, that's not like, your tortilla is not puffing, you're not going to get married. Like, that's just not the right way. Like, we're making tamales. Like, how do I know when the dough is ready? It's like, you're going to put a cup of water, and if the dough floats, it's ready. It's like, don't ask me why, but just the way it is.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah. But again, that's how I was taught, like, at the end of the day, yes, I went to culinary school and all those things, but Mexican food, I learned Mexican food from the Mexicans, from the streets, from asking questions, and the lady that I used to go eat tacos from my parents cooking at home, from my grandma making tamales. Like, I learned Mexican food from my experience living Mexico, being Mexican. So that's what I knew how to share, and that's the way I learned how to share it as well. Oh, yeah, it was an interesting experience. I got like the side eyes, but yeah, I was committed to have to make tamales.
Yeah, yeah. And also Wollongong, I feel like it's not that, I feel like it's not as multicultural. I think it is now, but maybe back then it wasn't as multicultural as what it is now.
It wasn't, and a good example of that is like, I was in the newspaper at week 3. Like, at week 3 when I arrived. There was like a full page of a photo of like me and like, oh, yeah, Mexican chef and Mexican restaurant, like doing this thing. And I was like, I'm the biggest thing that happened in the last 3 weeks. I'll take it.
I love that. I love that. And then you started doing some like pretty cool shit from that point.
Yeah, like once I realized this was my place, this was
Mm.
home, which I think was pretty quick. Down like when I got here, I was coming here for a few months, but I wasn't.
Mm.
Then I start thinking what was next. Everyone keeps telling me that if you are really committed to food and food is your thing and you want to spread the world with Australia about food, you got to go to Melbourne.
Mm.
You got to go to Melbourne, and Melbourne is the way to go. Like I even had like a little casting early in days about MasterChef, the professionals. It's like, oh, we want to
Word.
get you on the show. Like it's very different. Like you're Mexican. I was like, yeah, it'll be amazing. I was like, but you got to come to Melbourne. You got to come to Melbourne. And it's like, and what's your visa status? That's when I start learning about visa statuses and all of those things,
Mm.
like a layer of complications. And yeah, obviously I couldn't join the show because I was sponsored, didn't know, etc., etc. But I knew that if I really wanted to make a difference, then everyone was saying Melbourne. I needed to go to Melbourne. How do I go to Melbourne? Like I don't know, like I'm from a family where like manners are very important and you gotta be polite, you gotta introduce yourself, you gotta say hello to the priest, like all those things.
Yeah.
So when I moved to Australia, when I came here, one of the first things I did was I'm just gonna reach out to the embassy and I'm gonna say hello, introduce myself, and like I am Mexican, I am a chef, I'm here for a period of time, but if you ever need anything, hit me up, I'm around. They reply very politely, thank you very much for reaching out, we keep it in mind, that was it. A few months on the track, when I was starting to think like I probably need to go to Melbourne, like they reach out. Again, I believe in fate in a way or destiny, and I feel like it was another call for me, like Australia
Right.
telling me you gotta stay here. Like you do have something to do here. So I moved to Melbourne with a project. They reached out, they wanted to open a Mexican taqueria, very traditional South Melbourne. And I mean, naive, not knowing nothing about visas. Again, all of that. I moved over there. I started the whole project. Sweet talk my cousin into coming to Australia. It's like, come on, like, I need someone that like make me strong in the floor, like in the front of the house. Like I need that experience. I want to bring Mexico, like the real deal, the way it should be. I
Mm.
want that style of service where people feel like very welcome when they arrive and they feel like they're having a party with you and with their friends. And he moved here, like he came as a student. Then I started hiring like all these Mexicans. We hired a couple of people, like a couple of guys from London, and I mentioned it because it's important from England. And yeah, we started a little taqueria in Balaclava. Everything was going great. Everything was going amazing. We're starting to make some noise. The place was busy. The English guys were speaking Spanish. Like my motto in the place is
Yeah.
like, when you cross that door, you are in Mexico.
Love that.
So he's like, everyone, as soon as someone comes in, I contact, hola, pásale, welcome, bienvenidos, I'll give you a table. So everything that I used to yell to the kitchen at the back was
Mm.
in Spanish. So a few months down the track, we had like the little blonde guys screaming like, un guacamole, por favor. We had the music at the back, like full blasting cumbias and salsas, because the prep guy, I had a girl from my hometown from Sayula and a guy from Venezuela, and they were
Mm.
like in the back kitchen just with the music Latino style going like full volume. And yeah, the blonde guys at the front asking for guacamoles por favor from there. So it was great. But then I started understanding a little bit about the whole visa situation,
Mm.
and I realized the company I was working for, it was doing things a little bit dodgy. So I had to go back to Mexico. I had
Oh,
to go back.
you went back completely.
I went back for a whole year,
Oh,
not
damn.
intending. I went back for a whole year. I went back. I was going to go back until I sorted out my visa situation.
Mm.
But then I was in a car crash. I couldn't walk for about 10 months, 11 months. But
Shit.
as soon as I was able to walk, I took a plane and came back. Yeah, it was a great time for me to spend with the family and to confirm what I already knew, that
Mm.
home was here.
So you were determined at that point, like it's Australia, I'm coming back. Like it's like I'll wait for the 10 months, but I'm coming back.
I was in a bit of a pickle,
Uh-huh.
going back to the Latin American culture background. My dad was getting sick.
Mm.
I'm the youngest one. It's my responsibility to go back there. So I went back. I ended up having the accident and all of that, which wasn't planned. So while I was in a wheelchair, my dad would push the wheelchair to the hospital while I would drove us both to do what we needed to do for him. At the same time, I mean, it was a great experience. And again, as a migrant or as a Latin American living in Australia, I have to go through that process for my family to, like mostly my dad, to make me understand that it's a new generation now, like it's a new style of raising a girl in a family. You don't have to stay just because of me. He knew your life is there. You are happy there. He came, like he had the opportunity to come and visit Australia the first year when I was here. And he just said, like, I will be happier if I know that you are in a place where you're safe, when you're happy, and when you can do what you are meant to be doing.
That word safe is so important. I just felt that.
And
I
he
felt
said,
that.
we'll finish as a chef at midnight in Mexico. I would not sleep, not knowing what time you get home. You finish at 1 a.m., 2 a.m. if you want to in Australia. You go party, you come back. I can still go sound sleep because I know you're going to be all right. I know, like, you're street smart. You're raised in Mexico. Like, we are sort of paranoid by default as well. Like, you double check the door, you look around when you're in a parking area, like, you know all those things. Right? But he knew I was going to be safer here. So I came here and started all over again. I reached
Did
out
you move back to Melbourne or did you go somewhere else?
back to Melbourne.
Back to Melbourne, yeah.
Someone told me it was Melbourne, so I needed to go back to Melbourne. Went back there. I secured a job as a senior sous chef it was a bit of a celebrity-ish chef. You break my matrix. He was an English chef playing in the Mexican space, so I had to go there and cook for him to get the job. I got the job, and it's like, that's it. Like, I mean, start getting into newspapers, articles, working for Melbourne Food and Wine Festival and things like that. And I ended up taking over as a head chef of the place after a couple months in. And after that, a big company, a big Mexican company, found me through all of that, through LinkedIn. So just as an advice for everyone that don't know what to do with a life, their career, just put your life experiences and all you do and who you are in LinkedIn. And if someone is finding someone like you, they're going to find you.
That's solid advice. Especially, can I just add, like, especially from like your industry, because I feel like people think
100%
LinkedIn is like maybe more of like
corporate and offices.
corporate, yeah,
And like,
but that,
no,
yeah, sound
it's
advice.
another forum where people can find who you are. And if you're a right fit, you're a right fit, And if you're not, they're just going to keep scrolling. But I've had a lot of good opportunities coming through social networking in that space.
Nice.
So Guzman is a company that I make the jump for to Sydney. I was growing my profile as a chef, like it's a thing. We like it or not, they romanticize this idea of it's a glamour life. You are going to become a celebrity. You're a chef. You're not, like, it's just hard work and you're pumping out food and you
You're
smell
not.
like a beef fry every day at the end of your shift. And your human clock is all over the place. But anyway, I still believe in dreams thanks to television and probably a little bit of Netflix in there. And I had this idea, like, I'm growing my own name. I'm going to be able to do something great in here. But then this company reached out, came, meet them, and all I could see was another opportunity, another canvas where I could just continue putting my colors. There was this couple of guys that had a very set goal of bringing Mexican to Australians. Mexican their way, yes.
Can you put a timeline to this? So how long ago ish was this?
About 7.5 years.
Okay. Yeah.
7.5 years, yeah, 7.5 years.
At this point, was that company Guzman and Guzman, were they a thing, or they hadn't opened up stores yet? Like they haven't opened up shops yet?
There
Sorry.
was a few, like there
Yeah.
was a few already open. They had a standard menu. There was um, a way of working. There was, I would say, I don't know, 40, 50 something like that. There was a good amount of shops already. But there was a whole group of people that got brought in to the company in that stage. The mission was to grow. Like we need to make this a world class company. So every single person that was brought in was brought with a very specific reason. Like there was McDonald's people, there was, I don't know, Hungry Jack's people, there was like very hardcore finance people, there was very heavy marketing people. Everyone had a very clear task. You just got to do what you do best. Like this is your time to just give it all in this company. And I was a Mexican chef just showing up to sort of put the stamp of authenticity in the back of the
The
receipt.
stamp of authenticity.
And then some like, I didn't say this might have like, but I feel like I run a McDonald's. Like I'm just coming to sit in the back stool and like wave at people. The more obviously I start getting into the company's motto and what they do and how they want to do it, like the more I got into see that this was a great forum. This was a way to reach to more people. This was a way to bring Mexico to Australia behind someone else's name. At the end of the day, it was never really about me as a person, like as a chef or whatever. Like my idea was very clear since the very beginning. I just want to bring that to Australia.
And operate at such a scale. That's like such an opportunity. That's such an opportunity to operate with a business at that scale. Well, it wasn't that huge at the time, but then it got massive.
It was like 5, 6 years, boom, boom, boom. But it was all planned. Like it was all well thought. Like I said, there was a mission, very well established vision there. And I knew that if I say yes to that, I will be working towards someone else's dreams. But I also knew that part of my dream was attached to that. Like I wasn't just taking a job for the sake of moving to Monday to Fridays and like quitting hospital, and like I was actually having a great opportunity. And I knew I was going to learn more than I ever learned in university. It was a great school. Like I speak to people now about the things I do, the things I know now, and how I get involved in the food space. And so, what do you learn all these things? Like, I went to the university with GYG. Like, I learned from a lot of people that I work with. I learned from a lot of people that I work for. And I learned from a lot of people that work with me, like suppliers. You call it, like, I will stick my nose in there and you just got to learn what they do, how they do it, how it benefit us, and all of that.
So what was your main goal? Because you were head of culinary, is that right? Head of
I
innovation?
was menu innovation. That was my first title. So I was like Mexican in the kitchen. I used to see it like that, like I got like all these talks about when I started with some people I work with. It's like your job is to take care of the doors. Like you are going to not let all these McDonald's process driven systems people wash down the fact that we are Mexican and we are going to sell good food, and we know it's like, okay, but we need to fix first what is inside the door
Yeah.
in order to take care of the door. Like, if we gotta work two ways here. I was in a funny position. Like I see it now. Like the department has grown a lot. There's a lot of people doing what I was doing, but for that period of time, like I was dabbling in whatever area that related to the food.
What would you say was the first thing that you had to like you wanted to change? Like if there was one thing you were like, nah, this got to go.
So the first thing that I needed to change, I would say, like by task, the first thing that I got given was the seasoning of the chips.
Uh-huh.
I think that was like the tester, like she can put something together, like she may be able to do the job.
Okay, yep.
The first thing that I wanted to change, it was everything. Not meaning in an offensive way, but
No,
I used
but
to always say, like, if I bring my mom to eat in this place and I'm happy with what she's getting and she's happy with what she's eating, then I'm on the other side.
that's a good way to
And
test it. Yeah.
what do I say my mom? It's because like I obviously know like my mom does not really understand. Well, she understands now, but like what's that Mexican food that is not Mexican, and like like if she enjoys what she's eating, then we are on the other side.
Yeah.
She's not our target market. She's not going to be like a loyalty customer. Like it's just a matter of my own pride. So yeah, the first thing was the seasoning, and off we go from there. We changed absolutely everything. A lot of the things we changed, even customers didn't know that we changed them. I used to call it ninja projects. Like we have ninja projects. Like if we change it and people don't realize, we're good. Like
Yeah.
the assassination was done. Like No one noticed. We're successful.
But what does that look like? Like, do you have to just constantly test and learn? Like, for someone who's not in that space, like, how does that work? Like, you just try something, you're like, nah, and then you try something else, and you're like, nah.
It's a whole space. And I mean, I know probably the way I used to work, it's not particularly the way that everyone in Mian product development works.
Hmm.
But in my case, I got ADHD, so I have to have like 21 projects, like tabs open in my brain at the same time, as
Mm.
well as my computer and my email. Otherwise, I'm not being effective. And I used to approach it like that. They want me to change, they want me to do the seasoning. I need to start checking the beef. Like, I need to start doing this, and that. And I want to, like, little by little, just start working with suppliers to get options. So by the time the things will become a priority, or the founder will come and say, like, do you think we need to look into the beef? It's like, I got 6 options.
Mm.
Let's just try these. And what do you think about that? And then from there, I would sort of eliminate, because like, I'm not impose myself, but I was like, this is what I strongly believe you should be doing.
Okay, so you would serve as like an advisory as well.
Yes, like
Yeah.
by the time I present things to him, it's like, it's always going to be my interpretation of what you want.
Mm. Mm.
And I'm going to make sure that somehow it's actually Mexican.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to just fully brief and do what I need to do for the sake of bringing a product to the market.
Mm.
Like, I have some ethos behind it.
Mm.
And as much as I'm here to do my job, I also got to make sure it is Mexican. So second task was, we need to find sources,
Mm.
supply. We need to go around Australia and find who can make their sauces for contingency, for whatever it is. I tried, I don't know how many suppliers I went, we talked to them, we tried, we did products, we did iterations of sauces, and it was just not hitting the mark.
Mm.
And by hitting the mark, I mean, you could get to the price point, you can get to the actual ingredients listed on the sticker. But when I tasted it and when I put it in the food, it was not nothing that it would remind me to Mexico.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I try every single avenue possible, growing some products that wouldn't taste the same. We grow products from the US and then process them here, it wouldn't taste the same. So, in a moment of thinking out of the box, a little bit crazy, probably most of the things that I put forward, I suggested, why, like, if we really wanted to go be Mexican,
Mm.
why don't we go to Mexico? Like,
Mm.
oh, no, like, no, impossible. The safety, the reliability,
Wait, are you talking about taking them, like the team, to Mexico, or to source ingredients, or are you talking about importing from Mexico?
importing from Mexico.
Import. Okay.
Not just importing, but developing our products in Mexico
Okay.
and
Yeah.
then bringing them into Australia. I got a lot of resistance at
Mm.
first, obviously, because it's Mexico. Like, what are they going to put in the pallets to bring to Australia? Like,
Mm.
they don't have the capabilities, they don't have the knowledge that Australian does. Like, it's not first world. It's like all these. No, 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 no.
Mm.
There was a lot of yes that I just keep pushing.
Mm.
So I started working with a supplier like I used to do for many other things without a full yes. Go and pursue this avenue of work. And when they tasted the first round of samples of what they could do, the whole thing flipped.
Yeah, and they turned it into like 100% yes.
It wasn't 100% yes. It was a, how can we make it happen now?
Nah.
How can we make it safe for us? How can we
Mm.
make it scalable? How
Mm.
can, as I also had to sell the idea, like, you're thinking to open in the US, it's closer to sell, like, it's cheaper to send from Mexico to the US than to
Mm.
send from Australia to the US. Like, you got to think about logistics. So I went knocking doors with the biggest Mexican marinades and sauces supplier around the world. They do not do these things for anyone. They sell what they sell. Like, you come and ask them, like, can I buy your salsa roja, your salsa verde? It's like, yep, this is what we sell. It's like, but can I put more onion and can I put more? Like, no, this is what we sell.
Mm.
But the sales guy that is in this area of on Oceania, he's Mexican. He really believed in what we had to say. He really bought it from day one. When I say, like, we want to do this, we're gonna achieve this, we want to get to these many places, we want to be the restaurant around the world, like, and we need partners that really know what the goal is, that they can bring the quality that we want. And like, he took the flag with him and convinced them over there, and then the founder needed to go there, meet with them. Like it was a bit of resistance from both ends, but when they meet each other, they went party, have tequila, did the Mexican way. Like everybody's like, yep, we're down with you, we're good with them, they're good people, everything's gonna be okay. Because that's just how we make business in
Yeah.
general, let's be honest. And yeah, like that was a huge change, but that was the biggest ninja change of them all.
Mm.
Because in essence, everything became completely different.
Mm.
The flavors were different, the sauces were different, the marinade, with everything was absolutely different. And I used to work with the brief, like you're not going to change anything of this menu unless it's better.
Mm.
Like the boss used to say, like I'm not just changing for the sake of making things cheaper or making things easier to get. Like if we are changing, it's because it's going to be better. If not, we're
By
not
better,
going to.
by better, do you mean more authentic or do you mean by
The
taste?
flavor, the quality, the actual customer experience will
Uh
improve.
huh. Uh huh. Yep.
At the end of the day, like that's something that the company has very clear. Like obviously
Mm.
it's a big company, and like here and there also you can control absolutely everything that happens. But one of the biggest lacks of the company is that everything is about the food. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it's all about the food. It's all about what they present to the customer. Like yes, he's a brand, yes, he's a big company, but at the end of the day, you don't go buy branding, you don't go and buy socks, you go
So,
and buy food.
how did it make you feel like big recognizable companies selling Mexican food had a huge impact and still does on the image of Mexican food in Australia? And then you're behind the scenes of all of that. Like, and I feel like a lot of if I talk specifically because Amiga Mia, the audience is the Latin Australian community, right, of any generation, and it really took me a long time to find out about that you existed.
I'm behind
How
the curtains.
yeah, like how did that feel?
I think it was, like I said first, it was never about me, you
Mm.
know? I knew that I was doing what I meant to be doing in every single aspect of the things I did in there. I was achieving the main goal, why I came here for. I tried to link every single product to something that I would love in my country. The seasoning was rancheritos. Every single Mexican knows what rancheritos are. It's just like this corn chip with coated with this mix of spices and citric acid and like all these partying your mouth. And it's like, okay, this is childhood for me. This is something that I would have like finishing school. You go on your way to home, you're eating your rancheritos, or at a party, they put it in a platter. It's like, okay, if they're going to be eating chips, I want them to have that experience. There's this like ongoing story in the company about the ground beef. The ground beef is a recipe, like my mom's recipe. And it got to that, like it started as a bit of a joke in a way. Like when they say, I want you to make the best ground beef, it's like, I'm not going to make all the parcel stuff.
Mm.
Like I'm going to bring the recipe to, if you ask me what's the best ground beef you can ever eat, my mom's picadillo.
Mm.
What do I need to do? I need to make it in a way that is going to be accepted for Australians, but as well as understand by the brand and the end customer. So I need to make something similar to what they have in hot shop tacos, but the foundation and the flavors is going to be what my mom makes in the picadillo.
Mhm.
By the end of that development, of that product development, when we talk about this with the creative agents, I was so excited about it, and they ended up bringing my mom
Oh, really?
for the actual launch. But
Nice.
my mom was the face of the campaign. It was Mama Flores ground beef. We did a little video of like generation from generation. She passing me a bowl of like terracotta bowl with the ground beef cooking, and I'm receiving it in nachos and for the Australian market. But
Mm.
at the end of the day, for me, was like a culmination of this is exactly what I meant to be doing. I say every single flavor, every single recipe, every single thing behind the actual menu name and the actual builds put together is
Mm.
Mexican. It's
Mm.
Mexican inspired. It's recipes that I know from my family back home, from a chicken that I ate in the south of Mexico. This is the kind of recipes I'm going to put for the chicken. If the beef is going to be the barbacoa that I used to eat on Sundays, I like trying to emulate and replicate the flavors, putting them together. So everything has a deep meaning for me.
Mm.
And how did I feel of being the person behind all of that?
Because
I couldn't be happier.
that's a big impact,
To
and you
this
can tell
day,
you put your life and soul into it.
to this day, I see what they're doing, and I love the direction
Mm,
the company's going. Like, I don't work there anymore. I've left about a year and a half ago. Became a mom. The speed of life is completely different now. But then I moved into something else. Like I
mm,
went and consulted for Mad Mix again, trying to do the same thing, respecting obviously that I did a lot of work with
mm,
URG and that I wouldn't get the two mixed together. I want to work with them for limited time offers, products that are closer to the Mexican idea or to the
mm,
Mexico experience. I went to work in Woolies and I used to give these inspiration sessions. So like, this is what Mexico is about. This is what Mexican food is about. This is all the range of products that we could stock, we could make, we could create, we could do, we could put together with things that we are ready have in the supermarket. And to this date, when I was in television a couple of weeks ago, and that was exactly what I wanted to do. When they
mm.
say, like, why don't you come and make tacos? Like, can you just put something together? It's like, I would love to put something together and just tell Australia that they can cook legit Mexican food with what they can find in their pantries.
What was it like being on TV? What was it? Was it Channel 7? I think I remember that one. Yeah. What was that like? That whole experience?
I don't think I had time to digest the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like I literally was like, okay, yeah, well, we're coming in. Well, with the tacos, like as soon as I get like the food card or the whole thing got in the studio, the guys like the hosts start like coming. Oh, what is it like? We're having tacos, like eating it. Like there was no real time for like. I just saw that they were just loving the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we're getting to there. Like 3, 2, 1, go. Like okay, yeah. Like there was no time to get nervous or think about it. Like I knew what I wanted to do. It was
Mm,
like, and off we go.
yeah.
So we've been having great feedback. Like a lot of people have been coming to the restaurant and like asking for me, and then like, do you have the tacos? It's like, well, the point is like you can do it at home. Again, any opportunity that I can take to show Australia that we're not so far off from each other. Like there's so many similarities in the culture, Latinos with Australians. That yeah,
And
the
now
more
you
that it's embraced, the better for me.
yeah, and now you got your own you got your part owner of a taqueria.
Yep, we have a little Mexican place in Redfern. I don't do much. I'm not going to take credit. Like, I don't
Mm,
do much of the cooking anymore. Like, I'm more like the direction and the inspiration with the guys. And I like to work as a family, as a team.
mm,
Like, they all have say, what do you want to eat next week? What do you want us to cook? Like, you know how to do it. If not, I can show you how to do it, or I can give you the recipe, or we can do it together. From everything from the bar to the drinks to the like last week, one of the guys is like, I want to do their dead bread. Can I make knock yourself out? Like just bring whatever you crave, whatever you want to share with Australia, whatever you miss,
mm.
whatever you're homesick of, like just bring that and
Yeah.
share with whoever comes and sits down to eat with us.
What's your future plans now? Like what's next for you? I feel like you've done some pretty incredible things. Like you have an incredible trajectory so far. Like what's next for you?
Any Mexican place to reach out to me and ask me, you look at our menu, have like, I'm looking at 3 places at the moment,
Mm,
3 different brands, restaurants, chains and not chains. Looking at it, how can you give it the spin? How can you give it the authenticity by still respecting and appreciating what Australians take on board as Mexican food?
mm,
Obviously, I try to push the boundaries a little bit more with each project that I take on board, like get them to introduce a different ingredient or a different preparation just to, again, try to introduce a bit more of that to the market. I don't know what I want to do.
Are you going to try and go on
Flores,
MasterChef again?
Cindy Flores says, no, I think now that I am a professional chef, they don't take anyone that has some sort of preparation. I want to
Mm.
write a cookbook. I
Oh.
absolutely want to write a cookbook where people can do proper Mexican cuisine
Mm,
at home and put the flavors together that I love from home, but with things that they find easily in the supermarkets here.
mm,
I want to maybe one day open a little place where I can cook and I
mm.
can reach the customers as well. Like I'm not gonna open a big chain and do big things. I think yeah, maybe one day I can sell sauces in the supermarket. God knows what. I don't even know. I wanted to learn both ends of the spectrum. Obviously, I know the Mexican part. I wanted to know about, like, I learned a lot and had a lot of respect for the fast food, quick service restaurant model. Um, I love the folk of little Mexican joints as well. But I also wanted to know more about supermarkets, the shelves, what else is there, like I've got to people through a burrito that they can go and purchase themselves, and I know they're eating proper Mexican food, but I would love in some point to help them
Mm.
make it themselves, making themselves continue championing that interpretation of Mexican food in their households.
So your mission from the very beginning is still very clear, like to like with the bringing the authenticity of the Mexican cuisine to Australia.
What is next? I don't know, but continue with the same goal, I
The
guess.
same goal.
Yeah,
Yeah, nice. Nice. Wow. Is there any moments where you reflect back and everything and just be like, that was a life-changing moment for me?
there is a couple, definitely.
Which ones really, really stand out?
I took a photo the day I came for the interview to Jiwaji in front of the Opera House, like full tourist. I was coming from Melbourne, regardless, I've been in the Opera House before. But every time that photo pops in my memories, I didn't know that I didn't know how much my life was going to change
Mm.
from that moment. I was doing what I was meant to be doing, or what I set my head to be doing. I was cooking Mexican and I was doing it, but I didn't know the opportunity I was going to have
Mm.
to reach as wide and far as I did. And yeah, it opened a lot of doors. It helped me meet so many amazing people that I know along my journey continue doing this, that are going to be there and that are going to help continue with this. And again, it doesn't have to be my name on it. I just want for people to continue going to Mexico without going to Mexico, like
Mm.
having that little trip at home, or little trip when they go and grab a meal, or when they have a drink, like whatever it is. I think Corona has the smartest tagline in marketing in that sense. When I used to see like the big ads, and used to get very nostalgic about it for a single line that says, "From where you rather be, eat home."
Yeah. I love the idea that there's just so much opportunity because of the way that the Australians celebrate Mexican food and Mexican culture.
Yeah.
And even now, recently, just watching all the Day of the Dead, los Dia de los Muertos, and
Yeah,
how I saw one in Melbourne, how it's becoming more and more popularized and
that kind of
embraced.
walk, absolutely love that. Like,
Mind blown.
yeah. That
Mind
has
blown.
such a little thing. Going back to my Georgie days, in the Dia de los Muertos, I was with the CEO. We were going around, like walking around the CBD restaurants, and we were both like full paint face and everything. And like every single person we used to encounter and make eye contact, we're like, hey, yeah, yeah. Like it was all about like thumbs up. Like I feel like a soccer player, like
Yeah.
we're walking on the streets, like nobody knew who we were.
Mm.
It was just for what we were representing on that moment. And it
Mm.
was great. Like it was really, I can't imagine like what these guys in Melbourne are doing, like doing the Katrina walk, the pride of, it's not just a costume. It's not, you're not just painting your face and doing something mimicky. Like you are carrying an entire piece of culture with you, and you want to spread it with the world. Like doesn't matter how you do it. Like the fact that they're doing it the way they're doing it is just amazing.
Mm.
With that
Yeah.
said, we Mexicans need to be a little bit more united.
Mm.
We are too spread here in Sydney, and I feel like we need to start getting together a little bit more, and we need to start doing these Katrina walks all
Mm.
together, and not just like these little projects, separate little things each the way. I feel like there's a lot of people could get something from it. I mean, all the
Mm.
little entrepreneurs, all the people that is starting something, but not only that, like I feel it's also our responsibility. Like if you want to make business or you make a living out of your culture, you need to bring a little bit something more, and not just whatever comes in your pocket. Like you got to give something more than your product.
Oh, I love that statement. That was a good one. Um, I, you know what they always say, if you don't find a community somewhere to, get together and create these cultural events, maybe you got to be the one to create it. So
I know.
maybe it's part of your calling, huh?
Maybe that's how we get it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely look at you as like a leader, both in what you do in the food space and also what you're doing as actually in a number of different ways. So, I guess just to summarize my thoughts, and thank you so much for sharing your story and
Gracias
opening
por
up.
having me.
But for me, one of the way I see you is a community leader for the Mexican community in Australia, and also with you have such a clear mission. It was very evident when I met you. Actually, when I met you the first time in the taqueria, I don't think we actually spoke more than a couple of
No,
words. But then when we had that conversation, it went deep, and that's the kind of person that I am. That's why I share stories, and that's why I really valued you. So for those listening, I was on the ship and we were talking, and then we got so into the conversation, and I said, Cindy, I'm like, I'd really love to have you on the Amiga Mia talk show. And then with a little bit of back and forth, we finally got there at the end. But that's kind of how this got started because you shared and opened up your story with me, and I really appreciated you. So I think you're, in my eyes, you're definitely a community leader in that respect, and not only for the Latin community, but for the Mexican community, and also in the hospitality space or in the food space. But you're operating at a very influential level, being on TV, a lot of people working ahead of culinary for a large conglomerate like GYG, and also like the way that you show up, very, very clear on your mission. I think that you're definitely a leader and role model for many. So thank you. And I'm actually really excited to continue to follow your journey and see where you go next. I feel like you haven't even scratched the surface.
touch wood.
Yeah, so honestly, I kind of envision your name on like you know how you're talking about Woolworths as a Mexican section. Maybe we can share the space with El Paso and have like your brand there. You know, that would be
There's
amazing.
always place for the old and the new.
Yeah, exactly. Well, with that being said, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and yeah, I'd love to continue to follow your journey and all the best with everything you have in the future, amiga.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much.